One of my heroes once said to me, bushcraft is like a torch, a burning flame. It's not yours, but you carry it, keeping it alight and passing it on to those who wish to carry that flame. I've had many heroes, people I've looked up to in my life and who have shown me the way of the wilderness, and for that I am thankful. At an early age, I suppose my gateway into a lifelong obsession with the outdoors began, as it does for many, with curiosity. Childhood enthusiasm for all things wild made me the richest kid in the world. Initially, one feels daunted, perhaps even scared of how vulnerable we can all be at the hands of Mother Nature. But these heroes began to teach me that nature can be a sanctuary, a place of peace, a place of belonging, and somewhere that I can go to feel truly alive. Knowledge dispels fear, and I have learned to get to know things and engage all of my senses to let nature flood into my very being. A relationship has developed with what ultimately is home for us all. There is no better way to travel than by canoe. It's simply the most graceful, humble and soulful craft that humankind has ever made. There is nothing like it. The brilliance of a canoe is that it can be paddled for 1,000 miles through the most remote waterways on the planet, yet still remain light enough to be portage between those waterways. In this way, the only limit is the paddler's ambition. I often wonder if indigenous peoples knew their genius when thousands of years ago the first graceful lines of a canoe were born. I first started building canoes because my experience has always been deeper and richer when relying on things I've made, especially in the case of canoes when they're made from nature's most perfect material, wood. The canoe then becomes an extension of nature and my own hands because I've built it, and then when on the water, it's almost as if nature has called a meeting between us. There's a certain electricity in my veins when I'm doing something that is directly contributing to my own well-being. It's like my entire subconscious is feeding back to my head and heart that all is well with the world. I think it's what humans are wired for, and I often see that sentiment in others who've spent time getting to know what that really feels like. It's not humans versus nature, it's about being nature, realising that we are one and the same thing. One of the most profound things I've learned from spending so much time in the wilds is that we are both special and insignificant at the same time. Nature has taught me that she is much bigger than we are, and that lesson seems to reverberate in every paddle stroke, every rainstorm, every sunset. It's there in the call of the birds and in the tracks of animals. The trick is simply to open your awareness and listen. It's not always comfortable outdoors, but I've come to accept the hardship. I think it's good for my brain. And there's a great joy to be found when you realise that you can do something about it. Nature does provide. I remember when I was first learning bushcraft, I simply had no idea how deep you could go. It shouldn't have been a surprise, given that bushcraft is humankind's oldest pursuit. I will always be a student because the natural world has so many levels and intricacies, and just when you think you understand a plant, a tree, or a fungi, you discover something new. And that's the beauty. And it's not just knowledge, you need skills. The power to shape our environment is what separates us from our ancestors and other animals. And we can make fire. Fire makes outdoor life possible. It gives us heat, it gives us light. We can use it to make tools, to cook our food or preserve in its smoke, and protect ourselves. And we can stare into the embers for hours and tell stories that serve to pass on this precious knowledge to the next generation. A friend of mine likes to quote Ernest Thompson Seton, who said, "What is a camp without a campfire? It's no camp at all, but a chilly place in the landscape where some people have some things." And that reminds me of what has become one of my own core beliefs, that nature is not a museum. We are not simply observers. Only when we interact with the plants, the trees and the animals are we reminded that we are a part of nature. We need it. It feeds our mind and our muscles, and it nourishes our soul. And we would be wise to remember this as we continue to distance ourselves further and further away from what fundamentally makes us human. My own journey has been one of reconnection. Sadly, we've lost so much of the ancient wisdom that got us this far in the first place, and I've become obsessed with absorbing as much as I can from indigenous peoples and other keepers of the flame. Not simply to preserve some outdated wisdom or technique, but because it works, and it matters. It matters because bushcraft teaches us so much more than how to be in the wilderness. It informs the answer to the question, what kind of lives do we want to live? I hope one in which we all connect with the natural world on some level and realise what it means to be human. And I cannot think of a better way to do this than to simply be a part of it.